Hello there, boys and girls. Welcome to the Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic in-season tournament watch party. The Orlando Magic are off their first place in Group C, and they are waiting the results of the in-season tournament games tonight. We're going to watch it all live. I'm going to take your Magic questions. So if you're on the comments, wherever, we're just going to hang out for the next hour and a half or so. So let's hit the music and let's have a day.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Magic, or on the Twitter or X Spaces, I don't know what it's called, with at Magic Daily. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the site expert and editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we are doing a live watch-along of the final day of the in-season tournament as the Orlando Magic hope to advance. We'll go over all the scenarios. We're almost at halftime of these games. We're actually at halftime of the Brooklyn Nets game against the Toronto Raptors. I'll update on that score as well as scores around the league. You can see the big board behind me. We got the standings up there. We are going to talk all about what the Magic need to happen tonight, what we're watching as the Orlando Magic try to advance in the in-season tournament. We're going to be here hanging out for a little while, so please leave your comments. I see some of the comments already in the comment section here on our YouTube page. If you're listening to us on the Twitter Spaces, you can also leave comments there. We'll get you in on the show, and I'll answer your Magic questions. That's just as important to me in this space as anything else. Before we do that, though, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Whether you're watching us live, downloading us in the morning, listening to us later tonight, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On. And the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Don't forget that tonight, the Orlando Magic take on the Washington Wizards, the first of two games against the Washington Wizards. That's 7 o'clock at the Amway Center. Regardless of what happens in the in-season tournament, the schedule marches on. The season marches on. The Orlando Magic will take on the Washington Wizards. That game, you can find that game on the SiriusXM app. You can listen to all the home broadcasts with our man Jake Chapman on the SiriusXM app. Just search on the SXM app for Magic, and you will find the specially dedicated Magic channel. Okay, I went over the scenarios and went over all the various things the Magic need to happen in order to advance here in the in-season tournament on the show earlier today. Let's remind you what the Orlando Magic need. It is both very, very simple and getting increasingly simpler as the night goes on. We'll hit the decision desk for the first time here in just a moment. The simple thing is this. The Orlando Magic need the Brooklyn Nets to lose. If the Nets lose to the Raptors, the Magic are moving on to the next round and most likely a date in Indianapolis against the Indiana Pacers. That is, and I'll get to your comments here in a second, so do not worry. I see them all. That is the first and foremost thing for the Orlando Magic. Nets lose, Magic advance, simple math, don't have to worry about anything. If the Nets win, however, because Brooklyn beat Orlando needs Brooklyn to win by fewer than 14 points and Boston to win by fewer than 23 points. That's the to win Group C. So that's the simple thing. The wild card is where it gets complicated. The wild card is where everything starts to get really, really complicated. And quite frankly, I think we can safely say the Magic are not going to get the wild card at this point. But the wild card is going to be just a tad bit out of reach for the Orlando Magic. What the Magic needed tonight was a New York Knicks loss to the Charlotte Hornets at home without LaMelo Ball, or for the Knicks to win by fewer than 4 points. To say the least, that is not happening. Let's hit the decision desk for the first time. Bum, 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 bum. All right, Decision Desk 2023. The first results are not good for the Orlando Magic. Let's just start right there. The Toronto Raptors fought really hard to get back into the game. They held the Brooklyn Nets to just 50. My thing. The Toronto Raptors fought really hard to get back into the game. It looked like they were getting ready to kind of pull away, take the lead, and then the Nets went on a little bit of a run to end the first half. They lead the Toronto Raptors 52-44. So right in that uneasy zone. So not only are the Nets winning, they're up 8, and all they have to do is win by 14 points, and they will pass the Orlando Magic and win Group C. The Boston Celtics are taking care of their business against the Chicago Bulls, leading 69-50 at the half. Again, remember, the Celtics need to win by 23 points in order to pass the Orlando Magic and win that point differential tiebreaker with the team. Jason Tatum has said how much he hates that tiebreaker. He did not appreciate the Magic trying to run up the score a little bit. I don't think the Magic were trying to run up the score in that game Friday. I think they were just that much better. So the Celtics are doing their job and putting all that pressure on Magic. And the Magic are sitting back. That 20-point loss to the Nets is looking like it's going to make it very, very tough for Orlando to advance. We're going to need Chicago to give us some help and give us some love, which Chicago is loath to do after Orlando essentially just robbed them blind. Now, why is the wild card such a long shot for the Orlando Magic? There are two reasons why. First, the Milwaukee Bucks are a plus 32. So even if they lose tonight to the Miami Heat, unless they get blown out, they are likely to win that wild card and be the fourth seed in this in-season tournament. Miami currently leads the Milwaukee Bucks 54-53 with about 1:30 left in the second quarter. Kudos to the Charlotte Hornets here. Earlier, the New York Knicks were trouncing the Charlotte Hornets. The New York Knicks, though, lead the Charlotte Hornets 53-44 at the half. Again, essentially, this means the New York Knicks are going to lock out the Orlando Magic from the wild card. So a lot of our focus as we come on the air here is going to be almost exclusively on the Group C games. Orlando's realistically only path to get out of the group play is to win Group C. And so to do that, they need Brooklyn to lose, or they need Brooklyn to win by fewer than 14 points, and for the Celtics to win by fewer than 23 points. That ties Orlando. Orlando beats Boston in any tiebreakers because they won the game on Friday. That's the situation as we stand here nearing halftime. Obviously, there is still a lot more to happen. Second halves go crazy in the NBA. So we are just sitting here watching the results and waiting for things to come in. We're doing this show live, so if you're watching us live, I want to thank you for doing that. We're going to talk. I'll go through some of your comments here on the YouTube page. If you're listening in our Twitter Spaces or X Spaces, I don't know what they're exactly called anymore, feel free to jump in, raise your hand if you have any Orlando Magic questions. I am here for you. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the team, about anything going on. We'll update some news here coming up in just a moment. I just want to get to some of the comments here on our YouTube page. A lot of stuff saying the Bulls are absolute trash. All they have to do is not get blown out. That is indeed what they are doing. Michael Mancini telling us they still mad at us for killing them on the Vooch trade. And then David Erickson asks us this question, which is probably worth exploring a little bit before we get to our first little break here. Quick question on the lineup. Have you heard anything regarding trading for an all-star like Zach LaVine? I want to make that very, very clear. It's like Zach LaVine, not actually Zach LaVine. Now, obviously, Zach LaVine has kind of made it clear that he would like out. Chicago very, very much feels like, I'll leave that up actually. Very, very much feels like they're about to blow things up, that they're about to start to kind of disassemble their team. My sense, though, is that the Magic aren't quite ready to push some chips in for stars. Regardless of whether Zach LaVine's the guy or not, I don't really have a sense of what the Magic want to do trade-wise. I honestly don't have much of a sense of whether the Magic are ready to be more aggressive on the trade market, whether they're going to use the trade deadline to kind of push some chips in and shore up the roster a little bit. I don't necessarily have that answer right now. My sense is still this Magic group wants to see this team come together. The vibes are very, very good. They like the group that they've seen. They like what they've seen from this team. They like what they're doing right now. especially with Markelle and Wendell still hurt. We'll get to Wendell in a minute. I see your question there, Rafa. I get the sense that the Magic want to give this team a chance to prove itself. And so maybe there's a minor trade, adding someone at the deadline, if it's like they're very clearly much better than they think they are and that they can, get home court advantage. Honestly, like, I don't think the Magic are going to do any trades that affect the future. They're not in, I know I've said this a million times when we thought this was just a play-in season, which is not. This is a playoff season now. We're not in a play-in season. We are in a play-in season. We're in a playoff season, not a play-in season anymore. I think that the Magic aren't interested in, like, quote unquote, saving the season. The only deals they will make are ones that will benefit the team long-term. So is Zach LaVine that guy? I don't think so. I don't think the Magic want to tie themselves up to Zach LaVine's contract. They want to give Paolo and Franz all the growth that they've been given to grow and to keep getting better. I don't think they feel like this group is ready for that kind of exposure quite yet. And on top of that, I think that the Magic are, I just think that the Magic are I just think that the Magic want to see this group play out. And, obviously they can't stand pat forever. We know that this team has some improvements they need to make. And so we need to see them make those improvements and take those steps forward. So we will see what they end up doing. And obviously there's a lot of work to do there. I see your question about Wendell Carter. I'll get to that coming up on the other side of this break because I do still have to do my ad reads. I apologize for that. But let's have a quick word from our friends over at eBay Motors. Look, our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to be providing you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us this week, for this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Players of the Week. I want to highlight a couple players that the Magic have seen this week. Al Horford, he only played one more game this week, but with Kristaps Porzingis out, we saw him leave the game against the Magic on Friday. Horford is about to get a big bump in his production. Also, check out Gordon Hayward. If he was dropped in your league, he should be grabbed now that LaMelo Ball is out with an ankle injury. We saw him do some things that made me a little bit nervous and flash back to some very, very bad days when the Magic played the Hornets because Gordon Hayward is just a certified Magic killer. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy basketball championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, they're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit's only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. You are officially listening to our in-season tournament watch party. It is currently halftime at most of the Eastern Conference games. I've got Nets-Raptors up on my TV. The Nets currently lead the Raptors at the half by 7, but Toronto's been plucky, so let's not give up on them quite yet. Boston is up 19, I believe, on Chicago at the half as well. I should probably just double-check that. Up 19 at the half as well. So the Magic are going to be sweating a little bit here to close this game. If you are listening to us live, if you are listening to us on X Spaces, go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and leave your comments. I am here to talk about whatever you want to talk about during the next couple hours as we watch these games and the results roll in. Here's the question, though, I want to get to first. From Rafa Casanova here on YouTube. When do you think it's realistic time frame for Dell to come back? If you have not heard yet, Wendell Carter spoke to the media today. This was about the 3-week mark when his injury occurred. We got a chance to talk to him. He told us today was one of the best days of his life. The doctor officially gave him the clear to remove his cast, so he's no longer wearing that cast on his left hand. He had nice little kind of finger wraps on them. He's still not cleared to do any on-court activity, so he's on the bike doing some cardio. He's not running up and down quite yet. While he was on the court, he was kind of shooting around, only kind of one-handed set shots. So, I took some video. Don't read too much into whether those shots go in or out. He's not moving and jumping around that much. He's just kind of trying to stay as close to game shape as he can. He told us that he is expecting to see the doctor again in about 1.5 to 2 weeks. And at that point, he said he is hopeful that he will get the all clear to resume on-court activity, that he will get the all clear to return to the court and start kind of getting himself ramped up again. So we are indeed looking at least another 1.5 to 2 weeks. And even from there, I would expect another week on top of that to kind of get himself conditioned and back into game shape. I am not expecting Wendell Carter back until, I would say, mid-December, if not closer to Christmas. Probably Christmas week. It'll probably be a really good Christmas gift for Orlando Magic fans to have Wendell Carter back. I've seen this from a lot of people. On my comments, especially saying, don't mess up the chemistry. Goga Bitadze is playing really well. And Goga Bitadze is playing really, really well. But let's be very, very clear. Goga Bitadze's offense is very, very limited. He is not a jump shooter. He is not even much of a roller. He is a dump down guy. He's an offensive rebound putback guy. Wendell Carter adds a different dimension to this offense. It adds a different level to this offense that, as much as well as this offense has played, is definitely something this team is missing. And look, we're going to hit a little bit of a rough patch here. Let's roll right into the next question. Victor Rodriguez asks, how long do you think the Magic win streak will last? I won't lie. I am a little bit nervous about these two games against Washington. I'm glad Washington was able to get a win at Detroit before they came down to Orlando. I think that is good. Washington, though, is a really strong offensive team, and they actually have a really strong bench. I believe they are first in the league in bench points per game. Orlando's second, if I'm not mistaken. They can score a lot of points. So this is a big test for the Magic's defense. I think they had their letdown game Sunday against Charlotte. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Magic sweep these two games, and then they're going to lose at Brooklyn on Saturday. That's a schedule loss. An Orlando to Brooklyn back-to-back. It's the one thing that's in the Magic schedule very regularly that I hate with a passion. It's bad. And so I do expect the Magic to lose on Saturday against Brooklyn. But we'll see. This team is good enough. And then obviously, I can't predict much further than that, because here's the tricky part about the in-season tournament. So next week, we do not know the Magic schedule. The in-season tournament quarterfinals will take place December 4th and December 5th at team sites. The teams that do not make the quarterfinals will get games placed on the schedule for December 6th and I believe December 8th. And so we do not know the Magic schedule next week. I do not know I have no clue what the formula is for figuring out which teams they will play. I assume one of them will be home and one of them will be on the road. And so if the Magic do not qualify for the in-season tournament, and look, Indiana is going to finish 1 or 2, so they're either going to Indiana. There's still a very small window for Orlando to have a home game in the in-season tournament quarterfinal. It's not looking likely that's going to happen. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. But again, it's still New York. It won't happen because New York is kicking butt, and New York's going to expand their lead over Miami unless Miami wins big over Milwaukee. So Orlando, if they advance in Group C, are going to be the 3 seed in this tournament. They're going to go on the road next Tuesday if they're in the in-season tournament. I don't know where. And so I don't know how long the streak will last. It would not surprise me if they lose. It wouldn't surprise me necessarily if they lose tomorrow or Wednesday. It wouldn't surprise me if they sweep these two games. Excuse me. It wouldn't surprise me if they sweep these two games and lose at Brooklyn. Honestly, at this point, wouldn't surprise me completely if they beat Brooklyn, although Brooklyn is playing very, very well. The second half has just started. The Nets lead 54-47 about a minute into the third quarter. It's definitely a challenge, I think, for this Magic team. But look, they're going to lose somewhere along the road. December is very, very tough. I think when we all looked at the schedule, we all said December is going to be the toughest part of the schedule, especially kind of mid-December through the West Coast road trip to start January. And then things start to level off a little bit. We know the Magic have a very, at least on paper, easy schedule after the All-Star break. So the Magic have done really, really well to handle this part of the schedule and put themselves in a very, very good spot to be in good position for the playoffs. But we'll see ultimately what they end up doing. We have a speaker request here on the Twitter Spaces, so I'll get to some of your comments here on YouTube in just a moment. But let's hear from Cody LaRouche. Cody, how's it going, my man? Cody, can you hear me? Cody, you are on mute.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. How's it going, Cody?
Hey, Phil. So to your point of the Wendell Carter Jr. Goga Batadze conversation, so something I noticed, obviously, we use Wendell Carter Jr. a lot to spread the floor, open up the paint, pull like the Nick Claxtons out of the paint, guys that will easily defend against Paolo Franz drive. Does Wendell Carter Jr. need to alter his game more of a coming more in some, kind of mixing it up? Do you think would that benefit us?
Yeah, I here's the thing. I think that the Magic offense is kind of designed not to have to deal with any of that. Like the Magic offense is generally designed more to have spacing, to have guys make reads. It's designed to take what the defense kind of gives you. And so, what they're missing right now with Wendell Carter is Wendell Carter is another decision maker. Goga Batadze's had some nice assist games. I'm not saying Goga's a bad decision maker, but they love like running Wendell at the top of the key. You're probably noticing a lot that Paolo Banchero is running a lot of point guard and a lot of, it's kind of bringing the ball up and kind of initiating a lot of these actions, a lot of these sets. Sorry, that was the wrong one. And so I think that, with Wendell Carter, you just add a little bit more versatility. We have a question here on YouTube asking how I see Dell and Markelle fitting back with the team when healthy, because we can't go back to the way they played early in the season. And I agree with that. But I also think like this Magic offense has changed. It's figured itself out a little bit more. Like, look, Goga Batadze and Anthony Black aren't spacing the floor any better than Wendell Carter and Markelle Fultz did. And so they figured out a way to kind of crack defenses a little bit. Now, I think, Wendell Carter is a good rebounder, but Goga Batadze is a fantastic offensive rebounder. And that's probably my bigger concern of having Wendell out on the perimeter a little bit more, that the Magic might lose some of that offensive rebounding. So, everything is a balance to answer your question. Like, we need Paolo running point and distributing the ball. Absolutely. We need Paolo in the post more. We need Wendell as a three-point threat and a post threat. You need all of it in order for this team to be successful. I mean, there's a very kind of small margin of error for this team. And they've done a good job, I think, making the most of what they have and finding their way. Teams are going to figure them out. Or the shots aren't going to go down. Obviously, like early in the season, Paolo and Franz were really struggling, and now they're shooting the ball significantly better. There's going to be a lot to still figure out and a lot to get down when these guys get back. But, it's still, at the end of the day, it's better to play with better players, and Wendell's obviously more versatile and can do more things. And it's just about being creative enough and making the right reads and decisions to push this team ahead. If that makes sense. I think that gets to it.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. And you had a lot of good points. It's going to be intriguing because we have a lot of guys this year that you could argue deserve minutes, but with limited minutes to go around, even in short stints like Goga, you may not find minutes when Wendell comes back.
I mean, and the other thing is, and I think this is the underrated part of the Magic's depth and how well they're playing. Like, if Wendell needs an extra couple days and has to miss another game or two to fully recover from this injury, so he's not like coming back, being rushed back or forced back, like previous years, that kills the team. Right now, that's not hurting anybody. That's not hurting the team at all. Like, they're still competitive, and that's a difference this year than previous seasons.
Agreed, for sure.
Yeah.
We have so much depth this year, it's actually crazy. I mean, we
It
got
is.
Like Caleb Houston, who light it up as a 3-and-D guy, just sitting on our bench.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we sent the number 11 pick in the draft down to the G League. He had a great run in the G League. I don't know when he's expected to fully return to the team. I think they have one more game on this road trip, but Jets struggling to get minutes, and guess what? Anthony Black's going to struggle to get minutes when this team's fully healthy, for better or for worse. Yep. Cool. Thank you very much, Cody. I appreciate you jumping on. We're going to take a quick break. So I see some speaker requests. We'll get to some more comments here on the I see some more comments here on the YouTube. So we'll get to those questions coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is heating up, even if the weather is getting colder. Today was the first sweater day of the season. I love sweater days. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Before we jump ready forward, let me remind you all that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 channel today. Before we dive back into comments and your questions here on our live show, let's get an update from the decision desk. It is not good news in Boston. It is red alert time in Boston. The Boston Celtics currently lead the Chicago Bulls 82-57. It does not matter if Brooklyn wins. If this score holds up, the Celtics have to outscore or have to beat the Bulls by 24. They're currently up 25. They have to win that game by 24 points to pass the Magic in point differential. If this result holds, the Magic will need the Brooklyn Nets to lose outright. Currently, the Brooklyn Nets have expanded their lead back out after the Raptors got it down to 4. It is 61-54 Brooklyn with 7:43 left in the third quarter. So very bad results right now coming in from around the league for the Orlando Magic. Like I said, the good news, that if there is a little bit of good news, the New York Knicks now only lead the Charlotte Hornets by 2 at 60-58. The bad news, Miami leads Milwaukee 62-59 at the half. If these results hold in Group C, Orlando will need New York to have a close win by no more than 4 points and a Milwaukee win over Miami in order to advance in the in-season tournament. So bad results here. Still waiting on some ballots to come in from Maricopa County, but we are not seeing good results here midway through the third quarter. Okay, let's get back to some of your questions. I see speaker requests here in the Twitter Spaces, but I want to get to this question from Jake Droppers, which is a question that I'm very interested in and I've been trying to get at. Question is, curious if you've heard anything from veteran players about their perspective on the IST and historical legacy, i.e. if NBA 80 makes a top 90 list, does a Dame IST victory put him above Dame without? Jack, sorry, I got your name wrong there. Jack, I don't think we're quite there yet, to be perfectly honest. I think the players who are playing right now understand that this is something special, something different. I think that they see the trip to Vegas. They see the chance to win a trophy as a big deal. We don't know yet, though, what the historical significance of this thing is. And as Adam Silver has said, it takes a while to build traditions. This is the first time they're doing something. We can all admit it is a gimmick. We can all admit it is done to get people interested in the NBA. It has been a gimmick that has worked, to be perfectly honest. This thing has worked really, 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 really well. But does it have historical significance? That's not going to happen until we've been through a few of these things. If we have done a few of these things and gone over and over and over and over again with these, and it feels big and it gets bigger with each season, then it's going to have historical significance. Honestly, I think the NBA is loving the discussion around this thing, but I don't think they're very happy that Denver's not going to make the quarterfinal, that Boston is on thin ice to make the quarterfinal. They want a legitimate winner. Not that Orlando isn't a legitimate winner. We will gladly take that trophy. They want LeBron to win this thing. They want a Steph Curry to win this thing. I don't know where Golden State is in the tournament, but they want a marquee player and marquee teams to win this thing so that in Las Vegas, on December 9th or 7th or whatever day it is, not good that I don't remember the date, that on December 7th, December 9th, sorry, excuse me, that on December 9th for the finals of this thing, that they have a game that they can sell to the TV markets, that they can sell to the fans, that gets crazy good ratings and delivers everything that they're hoping for. So the historical significance of this thing is still getting built. I think players are intrigued with the idea, but they, even Paolo said, I don't think we realized this was an in-season tournament game in Brooklyn when they lost by 20. They didn't come out with the right intensity for it, and they got beat. And it's probably going to cost them a chance to go to the quarterfinals here. So I think everyone is still getting a feel for this thing. Like, look, we can all admit that this is a gimmick. We can all admit that this is done to manufacture discussion, done to manufacture special things like this. I'm willing to take the bait and go for it. But it's still a long way to go. Updating on the game before we get to our next speaker request here. The Toronto Raptors pulling back to within 61-60 with 6:20 to go in the third. We will definitely start watching the game a little bit more closely here in the fourth quarter, as this is looking to be the only result that matters for the Magic's pathway to the quarterfinal round. All right, let's get another speaker request in here from Orlando in LA. Jumping in here on the Twitter Spaces. Hey, how's it going, man? Once you get off mute, it's okay. We're all still learning the mute button. How's it going, man? Oh, hello. Are you there? Phones are weird. We'll dive in. There's some still questions here in the YouTube chat on free agents. We'll dive into those. I'll catch up on some of the YouTube comments here in a minute. And it looks like we lost. Okay. Let's go to our next speaker request. It's gonna be Michael. Michael jumping in as a speaker. How you doing, Michael?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Wanted to get your thoughts. One of the things I've been thinking about throughout the offseason and really early on with some of his results, especially the last game, was around a Cole Anthony 6th Man of the Year campaign. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think there's a clear path that could happen, given the media coverage of the Magic?
Yeah, and when it comes to these awards, and we'll get to a Cole Anthony 6th Man of the Year campaign, we got to start bumping up the Paolo Banchero All-Star campaign. Like, look, he's probably not going to get voted in as a starter, but the ballots will come out in December. At the end of the day, all of these individual awards, except for Rookie of the Year, are based on how your team is doing. If the Magic are in the playoffs, if the Magic are the 5 or 6 seed come early January when voting closes and the coaches send their ballots in, if the Magic are right in that playoff race, Paolo Banchero is going to go to the All-Star game. If the Magic are a playoff team and Cole Anthony is still averaging 14, 15, maybe 16 points per game, he has got a very good chance of winning 6th Man of the Year. At the end of the day, these individual awards are all about team success. No one's going to vote for a guy, like I said, the Washington Wizards actually have one of the best, highest scoring benches in the league. No one's voting Danilo Gallinari to be 6th Man of the Year. He's playing for the Wizards. If the Magic remain relevant, if they stay in the playoff race, if they continue to play as well as they're playing, there is a very good chance that they will at least be in the conversation for some of these awards. Now, will Cole Anthony win that award? It's hard to say. 6th Man of the Year is a weird one. I think a lot of it goes to reputation, which Cole is obviously still building as a 6th man in this league. Some of it goes down to just like Rookie of the Year to just raw scoring. And so he is someone that can score. And so he's going to be in that conversation. We're going to be able to make that argument very, very well. We all kind of saw it coming at the beginning of the season. I think, we all definitely thought that he was a dark horse to win 6th Man of the Year. But now that the Magic are playing really, really well, they're second in the East right now. Everyone's talking about them. We'll get through December, and then we'll really know where this team is at as Toronto takes the lead now with 4:58 to play. Start celebrate. Don't celebrate quite yet. There's still some returns to come in. But I think it is a very realistic thing for Cole Anthony to potentially be a 6th Man of the Year. It's going to come down to how well the team plays as much as how well he plays.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate it. Let's get Orlando and LA in here now since we lost him the first time. How you doing, man? Are you there?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. My question was more about like the future of the Magic, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to answer questions while we're watching the end of this game.
Okay. How do you feel about like Malcolm Brogdon being our starting point guard, like going out and getting him? Because I feel like, obviously we're supposed to build the team around Paolo and Franz, and I would want to get good shooting around him. Plus, he's a vet. How do you feel about that?
I will fully admit this, and I put a question out that I was going to address on our YouTube page up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. I will fully admit Malcolm Brogdon is very much on my early trade target list. I still think it's a little early to be so focused on trades, but it's going to be late pretty soon, obviously. And so when I've been thinking about the Magic, and it's not that I dislike Markelle Fultz, obviously, Markelle Fultz and score update, Boston now up 95-63 on Chicago. So Orlando is going to need Brooklyn to lose this game to advance at this point. Chicago just kicking us on the way out here. Sorry for the aside there. Markelle Fultz is definitely a big flashpoint. I did think that the Magic were going to be able to get a deal done with him, but obviously they kind of, I think, not getting a deal done with him kind of hints at, are we sure he's the right point guard for our team? And I think every move the Magic make from here on out, and Connor Easterday on YouTube here asking about Bojan Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, Doug McDermott as potential targets as well. All three very, very good targets. I put them on my list with Malcolm Brogdon. We do have to start asking ourselves, what is the right point guard for this Magic team? And as good of a playmaker as Markelle is, as good as he is at getting to the basket, you're absolutely right. This team needs shooting. This team needs to be able to make shots and needs to be able to spread the floor. Everything this team does has to be done to make Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner's life easier. They have done their job by stepping up and being better defenders. And this team has a lot of really good defenders and has played really fantastic defense this year. Now they have to find ways to make that offense work. And obviously it's working right now over the last 7 games, but they haven't been able to take this offense on the road. The home road offensive split is a problem for this team. And so we all know what this team needs. This team needs shooting. They need outside shooting. They don't necessarily need a super ball dominant point guard. And so a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, in my opinion, is actually kind of the exact point guard they need. If they could find a way to turn a Jalen Suggs into a Marcus Smart style point guard, or a Malcolm Brogdon type point guard where, yeah, he might bring the ball up, but he doesn't need but he's not the one with the ball in his hands, sort of organizing the offense or initiating things. They just need someone to bring the ball up and just kind of get it to Paolo and let Paolo run things or let Franz run things. They don't need a traditional point guard. They need someone who can spread the floor, be a bit of an organizer, be an old head and make an open 3-pointer. And, that is not Markelle Fultz, unfortunately, right now. And unfortunately, he hasn't taken this, at least hasn't shown us the step. I kind of believe that this injury was not something that was relatively sudden. It was something that's been bothering him for a while. That's why he's looked off. But who knows? Now they're giving him the time to heal. So maybe he'll come back. He'll look like what we all thought he would be. And all this is moot. And I think the Magic are going to give him that opportunity to do that. But Malcolm Brogdon's definitely a guy on my list. And while he has an injury history that concerns me a little bit too, he is the exact kind of player that I think the Magic should be thinking about and targeting. There's a list that came up, Bojan Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, Doug McDermott. Obviously, like Casey Myers on our YouTube page asking who do we trade to fix our 3-point problem and who do we trade away to get them. That's ultimately the big question. I think Markelle Fultz is on that list. That's the bigger question is what do you trade to get rid of them? But by the same token, a lot of those players have been mentioned. Even Brogdon, I believe, is a free agent this summer. The Magic have a ton of cap room, so they can defer a lot of these decisions. Yeah, I'm sorry. He's okay. So So he would be someone they'd have to get now. And there's going to be some competition for him. So, if you want Brogdon, if you feel like Brogdon's the answer, you got to go get him now. But like a Buddy Hield, for instance, he's a free agent this summer. The Magic have the cap room to go get him if they want to, even after signing Cole Anthony, and this isn't a big free agent summer. There's not a lot of great free agents. The Magic have to be a little bit more creative using their cap room instead of just rolling things over. We now know we have a capable team. I think that's the most important thing we need to learn this year is this team ready to win more seriously? We're 19 games into the season, or 17 games into the season. This team's ready to win more seriously. So I agree with you. We need to start thinking about what does this team actually need? Who are the players or the archetype of players that we need to take that step? And I agree that I think Malcolm Brogdon is the exact kind of player this Magic team needs.
All right. Well, thank you for having me up here.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate that. If anyone else wants to jump in as a speaker here on the Twitter Spaces, please feel free to do so. Like I think a lot of people are kind of noting, the shooting thing the shooting thing is definitely sparking some conversation. No PrizePicks today, Raphael. Sorry. Not on the list today. But you're seeing some people say maybe we don't need as much shooting. Joe Ingles has started to come around. Paolo's shots started to come around. Look, this team still needs shooting. The Magic have done a very good job figuring out how to get around their shooting. Is that something that can last? My guess is no, it's not. It's not something that can necessarily last. But the Magic have found their way. Paolo's shooting the ball really, really well. Franz is shooting the ball really, really well. So we'll see about that. As we stand right now, let's get a quick decision desk update here nearing the end of the third quarter. The Brooklyn Nets lead the Toronto Raptors 70-67. However, the Boston Celtics now lead the Chicago Bulls 100-70, up by 30. The Magic need them to win by fewer than 24 points. So that's not looking good for Orlando. Orlando will need Brooklyn to lose, or need Toronto to beat Brooklyn. Spencer Dinwiddie just hit a free throw here late in the third quarter to make it 70-67. Elsewhere, though, some good news. Milwaukee is beating Miami. However, the New York Knicks have opened up a 79-66 lead over the Charlotte Hornets near the end of the third quarter. Not looking good for the Orlando Magic to advance. Everything's going to come down to this Toronto game against Brooklyn. Sean Woodley, wherever you are on Locked On Raptors, we are big Raptors fans tonight. Let's get another speaker request here from excuse me if I butcher this, Jesus Cologne or Jesus Cologne. Let's get him in here to ask a question, and we'll get to some of the questions here on our YouTube page. How's it going, man? I'm sorry if I butchered your name. How's it going?
Hey, is this on?
Yeah, it's on. How you doing, man?
What's going on, Philip? I hope you're having a good night.
It would be a lot better if Toronto had 3 more points.
Hey, we still got a lot of time.
A lot of time left. 14 minutes ago, exactly.
I wanted to ask a question in regards to the shooting. I know that, especially you, Philip, for a couple of years, we've been preaching about waiting. And I'm just thinking, I know we have to adjust our expectations eventually just because of the early success. But isn't it fair to argue just to wait for Jet Howard and Caleb Houston to have at least another year under their belt to see whether or not it's worth it? Because, to get a guy in a trade like Brogdon or Buddy Hield, it's going to take 1 or 2 of those guys, I'm thinking, because they're not going to want an end-of-the-bench type of guy. So I would argue that if we've waited this long, it's not like we're going to win a championship this year or even next year, unless, just crazy things happen. Isn't it better to just wait another year or 2 and maybe just make that trade next offseason? Not this offseason that's coming up, but the following one where we should be contending if everything goes according to plan? That's kind of my thinking there.
Yeah, I don't think that thinking is wrong. As far as Jet Howard and Caleb Houston, it's almost like those guys figuring it out, becoming rotation players, would almost give the team permission to move on from some other players, or do that kind of consolidation trade that I think a lot of fans talk about, because it means you have the player in reserve to replace what you're losing. So if you're looking to upgrade a spot and you trade, I don't know who you trade. You trade a Markelle Fultz and a Gary Harris for something. You now have, you're probably going to trading Markelle Fultz and Gary Harris. Someone asked, what do the Magic trade? That's probably your trade package right now is Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris, and that Denver pick in 25. You trade a Markelle Fultz and a Gary Harris essentially probably for a point guard. And then you have Jett Howard and Caleb Houston ready to slide into the spot that's been left open by Gary Harris. So I think you're dead on. And I think the Magic have been very patient waiting for these young guys to kind of prove themselves and put themselves in a position and in a situation where the Magic can make these decisions. And the Magic can say, okay, we've got Jett Howard ready to explode. We know we can rely on him for 15 minutes a night. He's going to be a great three-point shooter. We can spot start him when we need him. We can go all in for that one guy that we really need this year, or that one guy that we think is going to help us out over the next couple of years. I've been a big thing that I have said to people is the Magic need salary slots right now if they want to make the big superstar trade. Generally, I just don't think the Magic are quite at that stage yet. They want to see this young group develop. And so I'm still very skeptical that the Magic even do anything at this year's trade deadline unless Markelle is just a lost cause, which I don't think he is. I don't think the Magic are quite ready to make that big move yet, but we all see it coming. And I think that move is like the last thing you do. So it's fun to speculate. It was fun to go through the exercise of a Damian Lillard or James Harden or whoever. And I think most of us came to the conclusion that it's not the right time. It's fun to go through the exercise of a Zach LaVine. And I think we all kind of understand that he's maybe not the right player in the right situation. But it's important to go through those exercises. But I agree. I don't think the team is quite ready, and they're doing fine right now. Like if the team struggled, if they were a play-in team and you just saw, okay, we need this little nudge to get us over the top, then yeah, go make the move. But it doesn't feel that way. Now, obviously we'll see what happens in the next month, but it doesn't quite feel that way that the Magic need that last little nudge. It feels like, okay, let these guys kind of cook and develop and we'll see what happens.
Philip, and can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I think it adds to the conversation. If we think about all these other players in the league, don't you think if the Magic had the opportunity, they would have done it in terms of the fit for the team? Because you look at a guy like Gary Harris, he fits really well with this team. His character fits really well. I know the front office talks about character nonstop. And you see all these trades on the trade machine of like a Tyler Hero or in the offseason a Jordan Poole. But in my opinion, their character, based off what we see at least online and in certain public, viewing or whatever, it doesn't necessarily fit the character that we see all these guys have. And how much better is a player like that to this team than Gary Harris? I think that's a really valid question. Like, why don't we just re-sign Gary Harris again? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to make the move or make the trade machine, but I think it's a fair... I think conversation to have with Gary Harris.
I absolutely think that is fair to say, and I would have said entering the season that they're probably moving on from Gary Harris just because of the age, because they want to put that money elsewhere because they have a Jett Howard now. But I can't disagree with you. I think the Magic are not at like a beginning stages of their development, but they are definitely at a stage where they want to be more competitive, where they know they can be more competitive, and they're still kind of building their foundation. Like, when everyone was freaking out about the offense earlier in the year, and yes, we should be concerned about the offense. I'm not here to ignore any of the offensive problems the Magic have, but like the point of this season, I feel like, is let's establish who we are defensively. Let's be a top 5 defense. We're not going to really care where the offense is at. The offense will come. Let's worry about being a top 5 defensive team, establish that culture, that habit in our leaders, especially because, if we want to be real, if we're going to talk about trades and all that, the only 2 players that matter on this team are Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Those are your team leaders. Like Wendell Carter is a team leader. Jalen Suggs is a team leader, but Paolo and Franz are the only guys that really matter. For them to be part of I think the important thing right now is let's establish in them the culture and the process of Magic basketball this is who we are at our core, so that as we, maybe tweak and add players here and there, that doesn't change. And so you're absolutely right. I don't think you just dismiss a Gary Harris and how valuable he is, and especially as a veteran who's been around this group, who's bought into what this team is doing. It's important that the Magic establish this foundation. And if you're just going out trading for random players who are new to this and they don't buy in, then you got problems. What you want to have happen is you add a new player or two and they just seamlessly fit into what you're doing anyway, because everyone else is already doing it. So I don't expect, in the next year or two for sure, that the Magic will do anything like major or crazy big. They're just going to try and keep layering on top of what they're building, what they built the last 2 years, and especially now what they're building this year. So I think you're absolutely right. Grass is not always greener. There's a reason why they've stuck with continuity. It's because everyone's bought into what this team is doing and they want to keep building on it.
Philip, and one last thing just to add to that point, and I think you can agree with this statement. I feel like it's like the type of defense that we play is harder to find in transactions, maybe trade, for sure drafting also, and, through the offseason, through signing free agents. I think this type of defense is harder to find in a transaction than it is to find a shooter in a transaction. We look at a bunch of the bad teams, they can score, but they can't defend, so that's why they don't win. So I think that the offense can be bought, per se.
For sure.
But the defense can't.
For sure.
My argument with that too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, when you add shooters are typically not great defenders. You do sacrifice a little bit of your defense to add an offensive player. And you have to just kind of decide whether that gain is worth the risk of what you might lose. That's part of the game. That's part of the job that Jeff Weltman has to do, and what he has to evaluate is whether he's done, whether this will work. Joe Ingles is 36 years old. He's always been a good defender, but he's coming off a torn ACL from a few years ago. He's not the spring chicken he once was. He's a smart defender, but he's not going to pretend to be a great defender. But he's the kind of player that understands a team defensive concept. So it's not surprising me that they took that risk with a veteran player more than a young player like, say a Buddy Hield, who's not really a strong defender. That's definitely part of, I think, the equation and the questions that you're making here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we're all on the same page. I'm sure a lot of the listeners agree. I think it's been so long without us having a extravagant amount of success that we're just kind of desperate at this point. I get it.
I think that's
stay the course a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that's a really important thing to remember. Like, obviously the Shaq and Penny team was built through the draft with Shaq and Penny, but it was Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott before them, and then you had the big free agent move with Horace Grant. The Dwight Howard teams, built very much through the draft with Dwight and Jameer in that one draft. They traded Steve Francis for nothing. They traded Cuttino Mobley essentially for nothing. They let Grant Hill walk in free agency. You do have to hit on a big free agent at some point. And when you make that,
how many shooters do you need on a team?
Yeah.
Realistically, how many shooters do you need? Because if we have Paolo shooting 35-36%,
here's the thing. Here's the thing though, man. Like, you still see it. You still see five, at least 5 feet in the paint when the Magic are trying to drive with some of these lineups. And like, look, we're going to get to the playoffs. Like, I don't think, it's been a while since we've had a team that was entering the playoffs with a chance to grow. We're going to get to the playoffs, and every single flaw on this roster is going to get exposed. People laugh at me for saying this. Losing a 5-game series to the Milwaukee Bucks is going to be one of the best things that could happen to this team. Like, honestly, like, if the Magic do advance in this play-in tournament and in season, yeah, we weren't going anywhere. But like the Detroit Pistons beating the Magic in 2007 and then again in 2008, that exposed a lot of this team's flaws and taught Dwight Howard and Jameer Nelson, like, oh, this is what we have to be better at for us to be competitive, for us to win. Boston did that. The playoffs expose your every flaw. You get picked apart. And that's what this Magic team needs. They need someone to show them exactly what they have to do, and then, or exactly where their weaknesses are. And then the front office can say, well, will that weakness improve by internal development, or do we need to add something externally to fix that weakness? That's going to be the question. And obviously this team's young enough to say, like, okay, for the most part, a lot of stuff's going to get fixed internally. Like if Paolo struggles in his first playoff series, every superstar struggles in his first playoff series. That's going to get fixed with him getting the experience. But if the Magic can't make a shot, or can't get open shots, or can't, do the things they've been doing well in the regular season, that tells you need something else. And so that's what the season's about at the end of the day. Like, that's what I want to see from the season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much we improve throughout the year. Even if we kind of plateau and we become a 500 team, I'm interested to see if our half-court offense becomes better, because I think that's something that will get exposed in the playoffs. And it's something that we're going to have to address if we really want to succeed. So there's a lot of things to analyze this season. We just got to stay the course, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's exciting. Yeah,
it's obviously been a great start. I mean, again, I don't want to downplay anything or be worried about things. This is the natural way we have to learn these things, and the natural way we have to do these things. Thanks for dropping on. I want to make sure I get to other people here on our YouTube page. I have a few things I want to get to. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, man. Okay, let's get some quick updates. Let's go back to the decision desk here. Let's go back to the decision desk here. Get some score updates. The Boston Celtics currently lead the Chicago Bulls 116-81. I think we can officially declare that game over. The Orlando, I think we can officially call that. The AP is calling it. This Boston Celtics will defeat the Chicago Bulls by more than 24 points, which means the Orlando Magic will need the Toronto Raptors to beat the Brooklyn Nets. It's currently 82-80. Brooklyn just scoring on a Nicholas Claxton layup with about 9 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. As that game goes on, we're going to get more into that game than some of your questions. So I apologize. I'm going to try and get to everything here. Gabe Maldonado asking the really important question, the basic question that we all need to have answered. If the Raptors come back and win this game, even if Boston wins, we're in, right? Since we hold the tiebreaker. That is correct, Gabe. If the Brooklyn Nets lose, the Orlando Magic advance to the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament. That is all that needs to happen. Do not care what happens in Boston if Toronto beats Brooklyn tonight. Again, they're trailing 82-80 with 8:47 to play. Toronto making a little bit of a run to get back into this game, but they have yet to take the lead since very, very early on. Nice pull-up jump, nice turnaround jumper by OG Anunoby to tie the game with 8:40 to play. Saw some discussion in the comments about Jamal Mosley being Coach of the Year. I agree with that. The last time I checked, the odds were ridiculously bad. I think this week has changed those odds a little bit, so you might be a little late on that, but Jamal Mosley absolutely should be in the running for Coach of the Year. Again, like I said, so many of these awards are based off team success. If Orlando makes the playoffs as a 6 seed, Mosley will at least be a finalist for Coach of the Year. I think Ime Udoka will also get some consideration for Coach of the Year for how well the Houston Rockets have played early in the season, but it's still very, very early. I don't want to get too far into rewards. Rafa Casanova asking, what do you think about Halliburton's idea of adding more incentive to the IST as the winner gets an automatic play-in berth? I am not quite there yet. I think that we'll get some feedback after this tournament is over, and the players will say, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. Can we change this? Can we change that? But overall, it really does feel like the players are into it. And it's kind of played out exactly how I thought it would. Some of the earlier games in the in-season tournament, like nobody knew really how to treat them. As we got closer to the end and we could see the light at the end of the tunnel, we could see what teams needed to do to advance. You're hearing teams talk about the point differential and not liking the point differential as a tiebreaker. Maybe that is something that gets adjusted. I don't know what else you do. That's just a thing that people do. I don't know how you adjust that, but you've seen a lot of teams openly complain about point differential, mostly the teams that needed to make up a big point differential on the final day, Boston. But overall, I think this tournament's worked out really well. I think the incentives, the cash prize especially, has motivated players, I think, a lot more than people thought. I do think an automatic play-in berth might be a good idea. My idea has generally been like everyone bumps up a spot. So if you're in the lottery and you win the thing, you get a play-in berth. If you're a playoff team, you bump up a seed essentially. It gives you like a little boost. So if you're the 2 seed, you get the 1 seed in the tournament and home court advantage. But I don't know if that's enough. I don't think the players need that, honestly, to be competitive. I think when we get to Vegas, we're going to see players. We're going to see players really, 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 really get into this thing as we go. Again, we are watching here the final 7 minutes and 5 seconds of this game. The Brooklyn Nets lead the Toronto Raptors 88-87 with everything going on. And now Brooklyn just hit a 3 from, I believe that's Dorian Finney, O'Neal, I think. I don't know. With the results going on elsewhere in the league, Boston currently up by 30 on Chicago. New York currently leading Toronto by 16. It does appear that this will come down to the Brooklyn Nets losing to the Toronto Raptors. If the Toronto Raptors beat the Brooklyn Nets, the Orlando Magic will advance as the winners of Group C into the quarterfinal round of the in-season tournament. Milwaukee currently trailing Miami 97-93 early in the fourth quarter. So where the Magic go is not determined. If I'm remembering the standings correctly, if these results hold, if the current results hold, another big 3 there. So we're in it now. 6-10 to go here. If these current results hold, I believe New York would win Group B and would host the winner of Group C, and Indiana would be the 1 seed and host the wild card, which in this case I believe would be the Milwaukee Bucks. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on the math on that. I promised to bring my calculator, but I do not have my calculator out. Let me pull up the standings. We're gonna do that. But the math is very, very simple for the Orlando Magic at this point. Orlando needs Toronto to beat Brooklyn. If Toronto beats Brooklyn, the Orlando Magic are going on to the quarterfinals. If they do not, then the Magic are not. Let me just check Group B here. The New York Knicks The New York Knicks might pass Milwaukee if these results hold. I am not 100% certain on that. So yeah, we'll get there. Let's get to some of your questions here on our YouTube page. If you're on our Twitter Spaces, feel free to jump in with questions. I'll kind of close off questions and comments a little bit with about 3 minutes to go when we get to the under 3 timeout. We're currently 94-92 Brooklyn with 5:43 left in the fourth. So this thing is going to come down to the wire. Paxton Bryant asks on YouTube, if Suggs can handle the lead guard duties, wait till the offseason and go get Gary Trent Jr. Again, a lot of transaction thoughts and a lot of transaction ideas. Gary Trent Jr. wouldn't be a bad get, and I don't think would be a terrible idea for the Orlando Magic. Again, there was all the rumors about him last season. He ended up re-signing with Toronto. I still think the Magic are going to try and keep some flexibility, but I don't think that is the worst idea in the world for the Orlando Magic, and the worst idea for them either. We're all stressing over the Raptors game. Don't worry, Ascension 66. But yeah, look, I'm not a big transaction guy. Y'all remember me from this offseason. I am not good at fake trades. I'm not necessarily good at evaluating the market. I still think it's a little early to be talking too much about trades and talking too much about I think my Twitter Spaces just shut down. Okay. I think it's still a little too early to be talking about trades and all that. But obviously it's going to happen at some point. If you are listening on the Twitter Spaces appears to be done. I guess, I don't know. It looks like the Twitter Spaces ended. So if you were watching on Twitter Spaces, come jump on the YouTube. I guess I don't know if it's I don't know if that's a thing now, because it looks like it ended on me. Because I don't want to pay for that blue check mark. So only YouTube now. Congratulations, everyone! You made it to the YouTube exclusive part of the show. We are tied with 4:30 to play after Gary Trent Jr. basket. So I'm going to start paying attention to these games. I'm seeing a lot of suggestions here in the comments about how to expand and change the in-season tournament. And, there's a suggestion here from Sean about expanding to 5 or 6 games. Trying to explain the scenarios are too confusing. If you think 5 is confusing, wait till you get to 6. Honestly, I think even going to like groups of 3 might be a little bit easier. The hard thing is there is no easy way to do this unless you make it a strict single elimination tournament. The NBA trying to make sure there are no extra games so the players aren't given extra stress, trying to bake it into the season and trying to get it done before Christmas. That is the big challenge of this thing. Again, I love this idea. I'm a fan of this idea. I've been really excited by this. The Magic learned a lesson this year. You can't give away that game against Brooklyn at the start. You can't get blown out like that. They learned a lesson. That's important. It's good for a young team to learn that lesson in a critical game. They're going to get to the playoffs now. They're going to know, hey, we can't sleepwalk through game 1. That's great. That's what this in-season tournament is supposed to be for this kind of a team. But I think there's no easy way to do this. And I think the NBA came up with a great system. They're going to get feedback from the players. Now that we've done it once, we know how it works. So I think next year will run a lot smoother and be a lot clearer. It's as Adam Silver repeatedly says about this thing, it takes time to build traditions. It takes time to do this. Again, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. A lot of Go Raptors here. We're all really excited for the Raptors. I wish I knew how to use my air fryer. Thanks for that, Sean. So let's see what we get here. Again, I'm seeing the Celtics maybe giving up a little bit of run. Nope, it's still a 27-point game. So maybe the Bulls make a little bit of run there. 1:15 left. Again, I think we can officially declare that the Boston Celtics will have a higher point differential than Orlando. Again, Boston needed 22 or more points. They need to win by 23 or more points to beat the Magic here, to beat the Magic and take them out of the running for Group C if both Boston and Brooklyn win. Again, New York is up 23 on Charlotte. Miami now up 5 on Milwaukee. A wild card bid is looking out of the cards. It was already a long shot to get a wild card bid. It was already not going to be super easy for this Magic team to get to the wild card. Their best path was always to win Group C, and it's a 1-point game with 3:27 to play. We are at the 3-minute timeout, the final timeout before the free timeouts go away. So this is the free timeout. It's definitely a problem. One more question about the future. Let's get to this. Jason Vignes asks, forget trades. We're going to have to pay a lot of guys in a few years. Who do we pay? I wrote about this over the summer with the Jaylen Brown signing, but Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are likely to get max contracts. If Paolo makes the All-Star team this year, suddenly he becomes in line for the Supermax because, you have to make the All-Star. You either have to make an All-NBA team in your first 4 seasons or the All-Star game in 2 of the previous 3. And so an All-Star game here would essentially put him on track to be on an All-Star for the final 3 years of his rookie contract and eligible for the Supermax. Like I said earlier, Paolo and Franz are the only players that matter. They are the only players that really matter for this team's future. So you pay them. Like, whatever it is, you pay them. Money's going to get weird, though. After I think it's next season, the new TV deal kicks in. So honestly, don't expect Franz Wagner to sign an extension next summer. I don't think that's a cause for alarm. He is due for the Supermax, and the Supermax next summer is going. Hold on. If he is eligible, he's not eligible for the Supermax, but the max is still 25% of the cap. If that holds true, then it doesn't matter how much the cap spikes. He will sign an extension and get the max and whatever that is. Jalen Suggs is definitely the trickier thing. Now, obviously, Orlando's already paid Cole Anthony. I would definitely pay Jalen Suggs. I would definitely pay Paolo Banchero. The question is, how much do you pay Jalen Suggs? How valuable is he really? This has been a very good season for him. If he continues to build on this season, he suddenly becomes a much different player and a much different price point. Like I said, the best comparison for him right now is Marcus Smart, and that's kind of the role that he's playing for this team. It is definitely a big question. Who do you pay? Jonathan Isaac's probably going to be an odd man out. He's at $17 million a year. Markelle Fultz is kind of an odd man out. He's at $18 million a year right now. Wendell Carter's new contract's going to pop up, and he's obviously not going to get paid the same bargain deal that he's been paid. There are some real questions about who the Magic will have to pay and what they're going to have to do and how they manage their books. They've done a very good job keeping their books very, very clean. They don't have a lot of long-term salary. They're very, very flexible to go after guys, to be involved in trades, to take money in cap room. But sooner, within the next year, they're going to have to pay their guys. So that clock is ticking, and it's definitely something to think about. Now, obviously, like a lot of that comes down to information. A lot of that frankly just comes down to how this season goes and how this team develops. Let's not lock ourselves into anything until we see how things go. It is now a final in Boston. The Boston Celtics have defeated the Chicago Bulls 124-97. So the Celtics do pass the Magic on point differential. The Brooklyn Nets were a +8 point differential. They are currently out. They are currently not going to be able to advance as the winner of Group C because they can only tie Orlando. They can't advance as the winner of Group C. Their wild card hopes are also dependent on them picking up a lot of points, which they are not probably going to be able to do. So it does look like Boston is going to have the inside track to win Group C. Now, big three there. Brooklyn up 196, 3 minutes to play. I'm not going to do play-by-play. You're all probably watching it too. But Orlando is obviously now their only way to advance. Like New York's done, Milwaukee's done. The only way the Magic will advance is if Toronto beats Brooklyn tonight. Boston did the job, and so the Magic are the Celtics are in line to advance. Let me tweet out there real fast. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Let me tweet out everything here. Sorry about that. I'm being very boring right now. So bad foul there by Toronto. Cam Johnson at the line with 2:52 to play. He's going to get a couple free throws. So we will do that. Yeah. So again, this came down to the Magic having one bad night. They had a bad night in Brooklyn. They didn't, not that they didn't treat the game with respect, but they got beat. They got beat really bad, and that's going to ultimately cost them a chance to play for this NBA Cup. Lesson learned for a young team. At the end of the day, that is the lesson that was learned, is they had to be ready, and they weren't. And so that's going to cost them this chance. And look, you live and you learn. It's not the end of the world. I like the in-season tournament. I hope the Magic would do well. They did do well. They did what they had to do to put themselves in a really good spot to advance. And even if they don't advance, I think we can all be very, very proud of the way that they played in these games. Not over yet. 102-98, Brooklyn, 2:24 to play. So still a lot of time going. A lot of time to play and a long way to go here as this game starts to wind down. Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm just going to tweet out there, see if people want to join us here. Yeah, my NBA app just killed itself, which is not surprising because the NBA app is trash. Got another foul. I love how the NBA app just starts from the beginning of the game when I ask for it to watch live. The NBA app is terrible. I just want that to be on the record. Like, I have to watch this game on mute because it's playing audio underneath it. That is not the game I'm watching. There we go. Okay. So back at it. Yep. Yeah, the Bulls are bad, and the Bulls, the Magic broke the Bulls. Chicago's gonna have to restart that team. Greg Perez here. I'll put that up there. Be disappointed. Like, seriously, be disappointed. Be disappointed. The goal in any competition is to advance and have a chance to win. The Magic did all they could and all they needed to do to put themselves in a position to win. they're going to come up a little bit short here. And if there's a lesson in that, take that lesson. Let's get to work on Wednesday. Let's get to work and beat and take care of our business against Washington. This is a big prize. There is a bigger prize out there and bigger goals to accomplish. Big three by Royce O'Neal. Big three by Royce O'Neal. 106-100 nets with a minute 53 to play. If you're not able to watch, if there's a lesson to take from this, take the lesson. Let's get to our work. We got a long way to go. We'll be better next year. We now know what this is like. We know what we have to do to be successful in this tournament. You know, the Magic were the 5 seed in their group. They were the bottom team in their group. We all looked at that group and said it was ripe for the taking if the Magic take the steps that they need to take. And they did. They did the job. 3-1, a lot to be happy about, a lot to be accomplished with. I am hoping that the Magic don't come out flat and disappointed that they didn't advance tomorrow. That's my bigger concern, but this team's handled success very, very well. I have no reason to believe that. Brooklyn with the basket, they're up 108-100 with 68 seconds to go. It does appear the Magic's run in the in-season tournament is going to come to a close. It does appear they will finish second in Group C. We will take a look. Let me pull up the wild card standings. I want to explain the wild card standings to you real fast here. So with the wild card standings, the New York Knicks currently lead the wild card standings at 2. Group B is the group that matters. Milwaukee is 3-0 with a plus 39 point differential. They currently lead the Heat 110-108. So, you know, that's good. That's good. That is ultimately good for Orlando. But because Miami losing is always good for Orlando. We have another final to report though. The New York Knicks defeat the Charlotte Hornets 115-91. That means both Milwaukee and New York are ahead of Orlando for a potential wild card. The Magic are eliminated from the wild card, essentially eliminated from the wild card. We can officially call it. We can officially call it. We are projecting the Orlando Magic are officially eliminated from winning the wild card in the in-season tournament. They will finish second in Group C and miss out on the in-season tournament quarterfinals. The Boston Celtics are now projected to win. We will officially make this projection. The Boston Celtics are going to advance in the in-season tournament. They will head to either Indiana or Milwaukee for the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament and a shot to go to Las Vegas. It does appear that the New York Knicks will win the wild card and advance to play. It appears the Milwaukee Bucks in the quarterfinal round. So we will have a we'll have a Bucks Knicks and a Pacers Celtics, I believe, quarterfinal round. You know, which again, like I said earlier, the NBA probably wants to set up that nice Celtics Bucks semifinal or semifinal in the tournament. As a big miss there by Scotty Barnes. Yeah, it's looking like looks like it's going to be done here. It looks like the Magic. Oh no, now Brooklyn might get to 14 and we might finish third in the group. But hey, you know, again, I don't be upset. The Magic did the job. They did all they could. That 20-point loss to Brooklyn ultimately cost them. You can't, in this style of tournament, you can't have a blowout on your record. If the Magic lose that game by 10, they're advancing. You know, honestly, like if they win the Knicks, the Celtics won by 27. If they win by 10 and the Magic's point differential is 32 instead of 22, maybe Boston tries harder to get to that number, but the Magic advance. And so it came down to that. It came down to losing by 20 to Brooklyn. It didn't come down to losing to Brooklyn. It came down to losing by 20 to Brooklyn. The Nets currently lead the Raptors 110-100 with 38.6 seconds left. It appears that Group C will have 3-1 teams. And the Boston Celtics will make the tournament. Remember the important thing, and we do not know how this works. The Orlando Magic will get 2 replacement games, assumedly 1 home, 1 road next week on December. I believe it is December 6th and December 8th. They will get 2 games added to their schedule to get to 82 games. So we will see ultimately what the Magic get and who the Magic will ultimately play. A disappointing way. We hope that this would be a celebratory evening. Oh, are they really fouling? Come on, guys. Like, the Raptors fouling down 113-100 with 6.6 seconds left. The Nets are going to pass the Magic in the standings as well. So the Magic didn't get anything they needed. This is a wipeout. The Magic got wiped out. The Magic are getting wiped out here in on the final day of the in-season tournament because the Nets own the tiebreaker over the Magic. So the Magic will finish third in the in-season tournament standings. Not what they deserve. They did not enter the day down that much. Unfortunate. Unfortunate that that's how the standings will eventually reflect things. But again, a lot for the Magic to be proud of over the last few weeks. A lot for them to complete to build on. Remember, these games are not meaningless. They still count for the regular season. Make that shot, OG. There we go. OG Anunoby sending the Magic to second place. Yes, sir, OG Anunoby. Yes, sir. The Raptors are good for nothing. The Raptors are good for nothing. That's why we don't like the Raptors. I will send some angry tweets to my Raptors friends. But that's it. The in-season tournament is over for the Orlando Magic. The Brooklyn Nets defeat the Toronto Raptors 115-103. The Orlando Magic finished second in Group C. They appear to lose the wild card as well. So the Orlando Magic are going to be playing those two replacement games next week. Is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. But a disappointing way for this in-season tournament to end in what has been a fantastic 2 weeks of basketball for the Orlando Magic. The good news is we get to keep it rolling because the Magic play the Washington Wizards on Wednesday. Let's get back to it. Still a lot to play for this season. So disappointing that the Magic aren't advancing in the in-season tournament, but still a lot to get to. I'm going to wrap this show up. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this live stream of this in-season tournament. I hope everyone had fun. I'm glad we got to answer some questions here over the last hour and a half. I'm going to hopefully turn some of these questions into a mailbag post, kind of go deeper into some of these questions that some of y'all asked. So I want to thank you all for joining the show. You, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all from listening podcasts to your podcast-enabled device, as well as watch it on YouTube like you're doing right now. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And also be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub for even more Orlando Magic content. Thank you all again for your support. Don't forget, you can check out the Orlando Magic broadcast, the home radio broadcast of every Orlando Magic game on the Sirius XM app. Just go to SXM. Just go on the SXM app and search Magic. Thank you all again for joining us for this live watch-along of the in-season tournament. Unfortunately, the Orlando Magic's in-season tournament run is over. We'll wait to see who the Magic play next week in their replacement games. Good luck to the Boston Celtics. We're not angry. These are the rules. You guys did the job. We appreciate you guys. You're the tournament favorites, so you did what you were supposed to do anyway. Good luck to the Boston Celtics, and good riddance to the Toronto Raptors. I can't believe we had to cheer for them for a night. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Wright. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.